Welcome to the AMSA board, October AMSA board meeting. It is Thursday, October 28th. And the meeting is being live streamed on Facebook and also being recorded. Sarah, could you please announce the board members in attendance? Do we have Sarah?
No, she just disappeared.
Oh, no. Well, why don't we?
We definitely had her.
I think she was going to unmute herself and probably hung up instead.
No.
All right, well, we will wait for
Is
the.
it okay if I can just read up the
There
list?
she is.
Oh, there she's back.
Welcome back, Sarah.
Sorry about that. There was a little technical problem. It just went for a minute. All right.
All right, Sarah, please announce the board members in attendance.
I can. I'm trying to. Okay, here we go. Sheila Kelly, Nick Poirier, Liz Saul is here. Raul Porras is here. Bella Gorman, Jill Schaefer, Ben Hamill, Roger Jarrett, Maura Webster, and who is the telephone? Is that a board member? I guess not. All right, so that's everyone here.
All right, thank you, Sarah. Next, I need seeking a volunteer for a timekeeper for tonight's meeting to keep us on schedule.
I can do it.
Zach is timekeeper. Thank you, Zach. I'm going to announce that we are not going to have the executive session that was listed on the agenda, so no executive session tonight. So we have recorded. So next up is public comment. Liz, do we have any requests for public comment that you've received?
We did not receive any via email.
Anybody wish to speak in public speak? Hearing none, we are complete with public comment. On to votes. The first vote is to approve the minutes from the September 23rd meeting. Any discussion, or I would take a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from September.
Second.
Second from Liz.
Yes.
Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
Yes. Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamill. Ben Hamill. Jill Schaefer.
Yes.
Yes. Can you hear me now? Sorry, Sarah.
Yes, Ben Hamill.
Yeah. Yes. Sorry about that.
Liz Saul.
Yes.
Maura Webster.
Yes.
Nick Poirier.
Yes.
Raul Porras.
Yes.
Roger Jarrett.
Yes.
Sheila Kelly.
I'm going to abstain because I wasn't present at the meeting.
Abstain. Zach Oglesby.
Yes.
Dawn Capello. She's not here. Let's see. Okay, so that's everyone.
All right, motion passes with one abstention. Next up, we have the architect contract for our new building. And for the Feingold architect contract, I'd like either Ellen or Liana to introduce this.
Okay, yeah, I'm happy to introduce it. We also have Bob Baldwin here, our consultant as well, if we have any additional questions. Feingold Alexander is the architect design firm that was assigned to us by the state when we met with the design board back in September 1st. And so it's been over these past weeks that we've been negotiating. Bob Baldwin has been negotiating the contract for us. He was able to get us a nice discount of about $50,000 off the top of it. We have been working with Feingold. They actually met with our department chairs yesterday, so the process is underway. And this is the proposal that they presented to us. It is sizable, but it seems to be the going rate for what they do. And I will say that they go well beyond maybe some of the work we've had done earlier where they're doing like fit plans and things like that. This is all the permitting. This is the third and fourth floor of the White Building. They're the ones that really make sure that we have exactly what we need and where we need it. And they have, as you can see there's civil engineers, there's landscape design folks too, and they've all been out to the buildings as well. Bob, anything you want to add in there? Or anyone have any questions?
No, I think you covered it well. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I mean, it does seem like a lot of money, and it is a lot of money. But, you know, it is for full construction, really detailed drawings in the public bid environment, in which we do. We have to go out into public bid. It is really critical that you have very detailed drawings, and we will get them.
Well, one comment I missed is that this was already reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee recommends that the board approve this. So with that, are there questions from the board?
Well, maybe just a dumb question to be sure that this is within the budget that we had already discussed for the buildings, right? So it's not going to reduce any of the other line items that we have, right?
That's correct. Yep.
Yeah, this is absolutely necessary.
Oh, absolutely. Don't disagree. Okay.
Other questions? Seeing no other questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the Feingold Architect contract.
I would, yes.
Okay, so I have a motion approved from Nick,
Yes.
I second it.
second from Ben. Sarah, please call the roll.
Ben, contract. All right. Here we go again. Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster, Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Zach Oglesby.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Motion approved. Next up is and this maybe could have done in the other order, the pre-construction budget, which is covering all the work that we are planning to do prior to putting the shovel in the ground. And invite Liana or Bob to present that.
I'd be happy to present it. But just to clarify, am I presenting just the $175,000 that we're talking about?
Yes, this is
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
this is the 175,000.
Thank you. Yeah, because all of the expenditures between now and a shovel in the ground will be, around $1 million. Most of that, which you just approved in the architect. The only numbers, so the big numbers are design, the architect, project manager, that's answer, already approved. I'm in there, that's already approved. So I think that, and there's several others. The only, out of all that money I just talked about, over $1 million, there's about 175,000, which is budgeted, but as of yet has not been, bid out, selected, negotiated. And the idea here is, and this will come in a series of 7 or 8 contracts, ranging from 10,000 to 50,000 type of thing. And the idea here is to get authorization at this time for Ellen to execute those as they come in, because timing is critical to keep things rolling. So with that said, I can sort of describe them a little bit to you. The categories we're talking about. One is permit fees and costs. I'm not sure, but usually there's some application fees and some costs that you have to spend with the cities. Maybe that's up to $10,000. My guess is it's probably not, but there's part of the line item. Existing conditions, environmental, 15,000 left in the budget. That might go to we had to do some more measurements and investigation in building 165. Maybe we have to look at a few things in 201 for the mechanical system. Don't know exactly, but I'm sure we'll be looking at a few further things. Transportation engineers, about $20,000. We've already spent some funds with the transportation engineer to come up with a plan, but the city will require a more detailed plan, some more detailed traffic counts and things like that. So we have an allowance of about $20,000 to finish that up. Geotech and engineering, there will be we have to, for the gymnasium, I believe will be the only place we really have to look for it. But we'll be doing some borings. We want to see what we have for ledge, what kind of soil conditions, so that the structural engineer can design the foundation. We need a geotechnical engineer to do that, carrying about $30,000 for that. That includes the heavy equipment out on site. Pre-construction services with a construction manager. We will be going out and looking to select a construction manager over the next month or two that presumably will be the folks who build this for us. No commitment until we get all the bids in, of course, but we'd like to get somebody on board early to help us with the cost estimating, constructability, phasing, scheduling, things like that. The work they do prior to executing the real construction contract needs to be paid for, carrying an allowance of about $50,000. That could come in higher, but that's the budget we're looking at. And then there's a contingency of about $15,000. So that's how we get to the 175. And I think I'm sure not all those exact line items will line up just like that, but I think $175,000 should do it.
All right, and this has been discussed and approved by Finance Committee, and the Finance Committee is recommending approval from the board. Questions for Bob? All right. Thank you, Bob, for your presentation. No questions I see. I'll take a motion to approve the $175,000.
So moved by Sheila.
I'll second.
Second from Nick. Sarah, call the roll.
Are you moving? Are you doing again?
Did we?
I think we lost her.
All right.
Sarah, you're on mute.
She's on mute.
Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Maura Webster, Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Zach Oglesby. Zach,
Oh, sorry, it's unmutable both my mics. Yes.
right? And Maura, are you there?
Yes, I'm a yes.
Okay, then that's everyone.
Motion passes unanimously. Next is a budget update or budget revision. This is basically our budget has been updated to reflect the fact that we have purchased the building and other updates that have occurred since the end of June. Liana, would you like to present that summary to the board?
Yes. Let me just share my screen.
Table.
Bob, are you heading out? Is Bob, are you saying goodnight? Okay, good night. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, thank you all. Bye-bye.
Okay, can you see my screen? Okay, great. So as Roger mentioned, we updated the budget to reflect a few changes. One being the increase for the teacher salaries. At the time we approved the previous budget, we had not finalized our negotiations with the teacher union. And the other big line item is, we purchased the buildings. So there's quite a few changes, from the original budget that you'll see here. So summarize, what our current budget is going to look like going forward for the rest of this year. Total of $16,517,000 for revenue. And we are planning on spending $16,379,000 in expenses to leave an estimated surplus of $138,000 at the end of this fiscal year. Then to just show you a quick summary of all the changes, the ins and outs that went into this. As you can see, there's quite a few line items that changed. We broke it out into operating cost variances and then the variances due to the purchase of 199-201 Forest Street. So as you can see in the operating, the major change there is the 4% pay increase for the teachers. Also includes we increased the floor amounts for them as well. So that net change was $260,000. Then there's some minor changes here. And then the other big change, as you can see, is the purchase of 199-201, which actually was a plus for the bottom line. The major change is the decrease in rent that we are going to pay going forward. Depreciation on the building goes against that. There's a little bit of more insurance that we have to pay, and Eagle Elevator, which was a $25,000 expense that we had to negotiate in order to facilitate the purchase of 199-201. So the original budget that you guys all voted on and approved was $183,000 net surplus. The budget that we are looking at for you all to approve tonight is a surplus of $138,000. The variance $45,000, and that can be seen in these various line item changes.
And this has been reviewed and approved by the Finance Committee. And we're seeking board approval. Questions for Liana or the finance team?
Liana, just a quick request. Can you just increase the size of this a little bit?
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
I have two monitors, so I'm never sure what you guys see.
Got it. Thank you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Just let me know when you want me to scroll down.
Yeah, if you want to go down, that's fine. This was helpful.
All right, are there any questions or comments?
You make a motion to approve?
I'm looking for a motion to approve the budget for the revised budget for this school year.
I do so move.
Second it.
Second from Liz. Sarah, please call the roll.
Great. Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Hamel,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Maura Webster.
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Zach Oglesby.
Yes.
And that's everyone.
Okay, final vote for tonight's meeting is we're going to vote or discuss and vote on the consent agenda for board meetings. And I'd like to turn the floor over to either Sheila or Raul.
I'm going to take that one. Do you have the slides by any chance, Sarah, that we could toss up there?
I can share my screen if that's easier.
Yes, that's good.
Sorry.
Give me 1 second. You can enjoy a picture of the public gardens while I'll bring this up. Am I sharing the right screen?
Lovely.
I could bring this full screen.
All right, so just real quick, there's only, I think, 3 slides, but as we've spoken about before, the concept behind a consent agenda is that we would have one vote at the beginning of the meeting where we would vote on a number of items. And the idea is that it would improve the meeting efficiency. As you know, the governance committee has been working on meeting efficiency and small steps we can take to improve that. It would also kind of streamline the votes. But at the same time, and I'll explain in a moment, we wouldn't be prohibiting open discussion of any item. So it certainly isn't an effort to avoid transparency. If anything, it's going to give the board members a chance to have time to review things in advance and be ready for votes at the beginning of the meeting. And that information will be available as well. You could do the next slide, Raul. So the idea behind the consent agenda is that the items that would be included are things that really don't need a ton of extrapolation or conversation. There may be things that we have previously discussed as a group or in committees. So obviously that would include the minutes from the previous meeting. It would include committee reports, again, unless there's something that we feel needs larger discussion. What we did exempt from that is obviously Ellen's report as ED, and the faculty and parent reps reports would remain on the regular agenda. And the thought behind that is that obviously there's a lot in those reports that are valuable for the board members to hear, for those who are viewing the meeting to hear, and we wanted to keep those off the consent agenda. But things that are routine policy procedure changes, if we just need to update a date or a year on something, not substantive changes, not things like when we make a change to the uniform. I hate to bring up uniform policy because I know there's post-traumatic stress about that, but if there's something significant that merits discussion, obviously it wouldn't be on that. But routine financial reports could be on that. Confirmation of items that we are required either statutorily or by our bylaws to approve would be on there. Final approval of items previously discussed would be on there. And then our calendars for approval, all of which would be in the packet beforehand for the meeting. So the idea too is, and I struggle with this, and I know some of my fellow board members do as well, is it kind of prompts us as trustees to really be prepared for the meeting. And the idea behind that too is then to expedite the meeting itself and make it more efficient. So all of this information would be included in a packet that you would receive. But I know we already received a packet beforehand, but all of this would be included. And then what we would do is we would have one vote on all those items to approve. If you could go to the next slide, Raul. So what the implementation of the consent agenda would require us as trustees to do would be to supply the necessary agenda items prior to the board meeting. And we've had some discussion about what that would look like. Ideally, I think I had said, and maybe one or two others had said, to have it the Sunday before or something like that would be ideal. I know the kind of glitch with that is the finance committee, because I know they meet the Tuesday before the full board. So it may be something that if we adopt this, we initially need to exclude them as well to allow them that time and kind of adjust as we go through this and see if it's working for us, and they may, decide to do something different. And it obviously, like I just said, requires us to review the information prior to the board meeting so that we are ready to vote on the items. But the other thing we need to be ready as trustees to do is to ask for something to be moved off the consent agenda. So what will happen is at the beginning of the meeting, Roger as chair, whoever the chair is at the time, would list the items quickly that are on the consent agenda. And if one of us as trustees feel like that merits further discussion or we have questions, we would ask that it be moved off. And the initial policy would be that we do move that off the consent agenda if even one trustee asks for it to be moved. So that way, everything that's on the consent agenda is something that we're all confident that we're ready to vote on kind of en masse. I think there's one more slide. Is there a, maybe not? Oh, yes. No, you had it and then you lost it.
Well, that was a previous slide.
Oh, it was? So that's it?
Yeah.
Oh my, I was even more succinct than I initially thought.
So one quick comment, I don't know if you mentioned this explicitly, but because this replaces the committee reports, it also adds to the responsibility of the committee chairs, or the whole committee, but particularly the committee chairs, to submit the report out of their committee meeting into the consent agenda. And I know we talked about this in the last meeting about the timing of some of the committees might make that tough because of the deadlines to get this out. But that's
Yeah, and then on these, do you want to have like templated reports from the committees too? So it's kind of like the same format, so we don't all have our own free reign. Do we want to put some sort of structure to it so we kind of see the same kind of data, or do we not care?
Well, I mean, that's something we can discuss. I don't think it's necessary to implement the consent agenda. And I think given the different objectives of the different committees, I mean, we could talk about if there's a standard template that would work, but I'm not convinced we need that. Sarah's raising her hand.
I just wanted to say that if you put your minutes in Board on Track, there's your template. It's there.
I know, and which we should be doing and utilizing Board on Track. Raul has been teaching me that. There's a lot of resources in there that we're not all, I think, capitalizing on. Okay, so what I'd be looking for tonight is a vote on adopting at least a trial of this consent agenda to include those items that were on the first slide, committee reports, standard changes, updates, calendars, things like that, and to try that out at our next board meeting. And I can work with Sarah and Roger to just on how that would actually look and to get it out to all of you. Do you guys have any questions about that? Okay.
No, so no questions? Entertain a motion to approve piloting the consent agenda.
so moved.
I'll second.
Second, moved by Raul, second by Zach. Sarah, please call the roll.
Okay, Bella Gorman.
Yes.
Ben Hamel.
Yes.
Jill Schaefer.
Yes.
Liz Saul.
Yes.
Mara Webster.
Yes.
Nick Poirier.
Yes.
Raul Forrest.
Yes.
Roger Jarrett.
Yes.
Sheila Kelly.
Yes.
Zach Oglesby.
Yes.
That's everyone.
Motion passes unanimously. Now that we've agreed to do this as a pilot, I think the one key question that we should get consensus on for next meeting is what's the what deadline would we have for the submission of the committee reports and items for vote? I would suggest the week before.
And I think when we discussed it in governance, just to throw it out there, that would be our ideal, as most people's ideal as well. I think that could be difficult for some, but so my compromise was kind of the weekend before. You know, I know a lot of people have a lot of commitments outside of our roles as trustees. So to have a little bit of time so that we're not just at 5 o'clock or 5:30 on Thursday night, rushing to try to comprehend it, would be great. So, not that I do that.
Discussion?
I agree. I think my days are packed during the weekdays, so if we can have a Sunday or a Saturday prior to the board meeting to process the information that's going to be presented at that board meeting for vote, would be ideal.
So does that mean that there's two issues here. There's one is what time should the committee and vote items be submitted, and there's how much time do you need to read them? So if you're saying that you'd like to read them over the weekend, that implies Thursday cutoff. If you're writing the reports, that would imply a Sunday cutoff.
I guess I think if Sunday is, the compromise, I think that would be ideal. So that it gives folks time to write and it gives folks time to review.
So are there any committee meetings, and I know maybe finance is the answer to this question, but any committee meetings that happen the same week of the board meeting?
Currently, finance runs on the same week.
Okay.
I think I would think that we could have something where, that anything that doesn't make the cut, we would just use while we're piloting this, would just follow the regular process. That we would have the consent agenda packet and then the regular, with the goal of trying to get as much as possible into the consent agenda. Is what I was thinking.
So that would
It's
say
not like if you miss the cutoff, you can't have a vote. It's just that we'll just be we'll have less prep time and be less efficient in running our meeting for those things that missed the consent agenda cutoff date.
So if that's the intention, I would say that the cutoff date should be the previous Thursday, so the packet can go out on the Friday, and then everybody will have the weekend and the whole following week before the board meeting to read it. That makes sense?
Sheila, does that work for you?
Sorry, it does work for me. Yep.
Yeah. And this is a pilot, so this is just our timeline for next month, and we'll adjust.
Right, and we can always adjust.
We can always adjust. All right, so.
And I just want to toss out there too, strategic planning and goals and meeting efficiency are two of the things that the governance committee are working pretty extensively on right now. So if people have suggestions or whatever, please reach out to me. I'm happy to hear anything that you have in mind, but I thought this was a good place for us to start.
Yeah, so thank you for all the hard work on this. I know it's been I say, this consent agenda, this should be easy. It's been a lot of hard work. I really appreciate it. It's going to make our lives easier and better. We'll spend our time on the important stuff. So our plan is for the November board meeting that we will have a consent packet, and board reports and votes would be due the Thursday before, and I would get the agenda out by the Friday with the consent packet. And anything that misses the deadline, we'll just do for our regular process. Great. All set there? Thank you. Ellen, I'd like to turn the baton over to you for the Executive Director report.
I will unmute myself and get my screen share up. All right, well, it's nice to see all of you. 1 second here. Let me get you back up to the first page. All right. Okay, all right, well, good evening, everyone. I hope you've had a good week. you weren't affected too much by the storm that we've experienced recently. Tonight, we will be, here's an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight. Just a quick update on back to school and what we've been seeing and experiencing since we've come back. A little bit of information on the November 17th professional development. It's a half a day, so it's a half a day professional development. I want to talk a little bit about what we're going to be working on and the items we're going to be working to address. We're going to do a quick MCAS update for you. MCAS was very, very different in the spring, and we're going to talk about that a little bit and how the data is going to be used. We are going to look at enrollment and attrition update. And these both, the MCAS and the enrollment and attrition, we give an update on these this time of year every year. Then a brief building update, because I think most of you know the good news there, and especially with the votes that we've just had, and a couple upcoming events that are coming up, and just a little bit of razzle-dazzle time. Okay, no, you're not gonna go for me, huh? Oh gosh. Okay, there we go. All right, so it has been wonderful to have all of our staff and our students back in school and in person. I think many of us started this year thinking that everything was back to normal, and we all rushed back very excited and really anticipating this normal year, but it hasn't really turned out about that way exactly, and we're going to talk about that a little bit. But our teachers and our counselors and all of our staff members have been really working so hard to kind of keep things flowing and keep the school year moving. The students seem to be very happy to be back to school, very energetic, and yet I think a huge adjustment for them as well. We love the passion and the energy that we've all seen over these. Oopsie, there we go. And while we're very excited about our back to school situation, we are also seeing a few concerns that have come forward, and they're fairly important because they really are the foundation of what we do at AMSA. And that is, we're definitely seeing some student behavior concerns, particularly in the lower school, where many of these students haven't been in school for a long time. Sixth graders, if depending upon what school that they came from, haven't been in a traditional classroom since fourth grade. And we are definitely seeing that has had an impact, I think, developmentally and as far as the level of maturity that we weren't necessarily anticipating. And although I think that all of us have really thought about students returning, we've all read a lot of articles and watched all kinds of information about what was it going to be like to have students all return to school. I think just living through it is a different, obviously, than reading what might be as we were heading into the school year. But we definitely have seen that student behavior is an issue. Our seventh grade students, you know, they had never been to AMSA before. They hadn't learned the AMSA way, and they were remote. So what they're coming in also needing to be really to learn about AMSA and what AMSA is, who we are, and what our expectations are. And so we're really digging in deep on that right now. We're also seeing, because of the behavior in particular, and just because of the level of work that teachers put in to their classes and to, you know, correcting and prepping, we're also seeing teacher stress, and we are very concerned about burnout, not only for our teachers, but for all our adults at the school. Sometimes you can just feel the stress, and everyone, it feels like is having to put in much more work and hours than even in a typical year. And so we're definitely being very mindful of that. We're also seeing, you know, we always see learning gaps, right? Especially after a summer and students forget things, or they're coming to us from different schools. So, you know, there's always some level of obviously gaps in a classroom. But due to the remote and hybrid learning, we're seeing greater gaps. And so you can have a class of students, and you have some students who were able to really engage in hybrid or in remote learning, and being on the computer. In fact, some students did better that way, actually, and they were able to enjoy that. And some, it was almost like, 18 months passed by. And so you're seeing, we're seeing really large gaps. That's stressful for teachers because they desperately are working to educate all children, right? And trying to figure out where those gaps are and making sure that we can fill them and start to, bring the students all together. So as I mentioned, this is the student behavior at AMSA is very important. It's important at every school, but in order to move students academically the way that we need to, spending as much time as the teachers are on behavior, and our dean of students and the vice principal and all are spending on student behavior, it takes away from academics, slows things down, the gaps don't get filled, and the teachers and the burnout is more of a concern. So you can see where it is intertwined. So to address these concerns, we did have an all-staff meeting recently, and I did speak to the staff and openly acknowledge the problem, letting them know that we see what's going on, that we're in this with them, and that we're looking at ways, and very actively looking for ways to help support them. But I think it's important to name it, right? Because I think that for many of us, we came back to school with all these hopes and visions and feeling like it was all going to be normal. And yet I feel like if you kind of just scratch below the surface just a little bit, for maybe any of us, you start to realize that it's not quite as normal as we're pretending that it is. And so I think it's important that we talk about it and support each other for those who need it on some days, and for those, some days you don't need it, but then you reach out to your neighbor and you help them too. And we wanted to acknowledge the bumpy start so that they knew that we are in this with them. So all of the adults, our administrators, department chairs, teachers, counselors, everyone are working to develop immediate and long-term solutions to what we're doing, which is, really reorient and reset those expectations for all our students in all grades. And so we had on November 17th, it's a half day. Anders is working on that PD. And we were working on the AMSA 2025, which is really creating a document over the year that highlights and puts into historical perspective, I think, what is the AMSA way. We talk about it a lot. We want to get something in writing so that we have it for all time and eternity, but it would be a living, breathing document that's going to change as we change over time. We were going to work on that on November 17th. We've already had one PD on that. We're going to pivot because we understand that there's a hole in our boat and we can't really watch the vision of the boat going forward while we have a hole in it. So we need to stop moving forward on that, and we are going to address the student behavior, helping teachers with that, the teacher stress that they're experiencing, and then the department chairs will be working during department chair meetings with these teachers on those gaps. So the professional development on November 17th, we hope to really send a message to everyone of openness and trust, support, and community, which of course is one of our core values, to say, it's okay, because what we're often hearing is, oh, wow, it's great. I've got 4 or 5 classes, but boy, I've got this one class. Well, that's okay. We want you to let us know what that one class is. We're going to be in there with you, get our eyes on there, and try to give you some help and support. But sometimes you have to be brave to tell, the administration that I need help. And we really want to make sure that everybody knows that we're there to help them. But just let us know what you need. And so we're going to do that. The administrators and the department chairs, we're targeting these classes that, teachers are struggling with, 1 or 2, and get in there and help them to maybe identify some things that can help them to in whatever issue that they're having. So we so we want them to know there's no judgment here. We all have times that we struggle, and we all want to help them. It's going to relieve stress for everyone. We're also going to run another set of grade level meetings for the lower grades and reiterate the expectations for their behavior as well. And so, we're also during this professional development going to be setting a clear sense of direction for everyone as we go forward, and also to help them put together, we're going to put them in groups and put together a toolkit. And the other thing is, like, we're calling them lifelines. So if you're having a struggle right in the moment, that there's a lifeline, there's people that are going to come and help you out immediately. And then toolkits, some of our more experienced teachers who have the skills of working in all different types of situations to help some of our newer folks out with particularly energetic classes, we will say. So that's kind of the plan. I wanted just to kind of give you a vision. Everything isn't always roses and sunshine. And I wanted to be real with you about that as well. We are having similar challenges to what you're reading about in the news. It's on a micro level, because usually that's how it is at AMSA, but it's serious to us because it impacts the way we're able to teach in the classroom. So we want to be on top of it as fast as we can. And so now we're going to go into MCAS, which is a really different animal this year than it's been for a long time. You may remember that back in the spring of 2020, when we first went into the COVID season, that they canceled MCAS. And the students who graduated after then, who weren't able to take MCAS, they graduated by grades and not by MCAS scores, which is a graduation requirement for the state typically. So this year we did hold MCAS in 2021. Sarah runs that for all of our students' testing single-handedly. And she, what they had us do, just a reminder that in the spring when we came back to school on the 28th of April, that about 64% of our kids came back. So what the state had us do was that any student who was in person took the MCAS. Anyone who remained remote, which was about 38% or so of the students, they had a choice to take the exam or to defer to the fall. Now, this is for 10th graders. This isn't for the younger kids. There was a little bit of a different version for the younger kids, but I'm focusing on the 10th graders. 27 of our 10th graders decided to defer to the fall. So the scores we're going to look at don't include the scores, obviously, for these students who are going to be testing in November. Students who were typically in person, they tested in their classrooms, but the remote students, they had to come in and they had to test in the cafeteria. And we had them all separated. But I'm bringing that forward really for you, because when you have exams like this, that are standardized exams, it's really important that the conditions are the same for everyone, or as close as you can get. So you're not involving all those exterior factors that could affect a student's score. So these students, some of them had been home and all of a sudden found themselves testing in a cafeteria. Others, hadn't taken tests for quite some time. And so it was really unusual. Some of them, as I said, didn't do it, and they're going to take the test this fall. So very unusual. And because of that situation, the state is acknowledging that and saying, okay, MCAS is not going to be used for accountability. It's only for academic planning purposes. So let's look at the data. Don't worry so much about how, is it 100% accurate or is it as accurate as you can get in MCAS? But let's just, test as many kids as we can. And then let's take a look at what we get back and analyze that for looking for things that students have missed and gaps. So when you look at the Department of Education in their website, they did not issue school district or state accountability determinations in 2021. If you look back, you'll see that our determination, which is not needing any assistance, is the same as it was in 2019. I'm not sure when they'll get back to using MCAS for the purpose that they were intended. I imagine it will look much more similar this spring, but only time will tell. But this was definitely an interesting year. So these are snapshots right from the Department of Education website. And you'll see now this one here is 10th grade, and it's English, so English language arts. And on the far side, left side, at least my left, those are AMSA scores. So you can see that 87% of AMSA 10th graders, not all of them, because we know we have 27 that still have to test, but of the ones that tested, 87% of them scored either a meeting or exceeded the math score. When we look at the state comparison for 10th graders in English, the state score was 64% of students scored meeting or exceeding. So that's 23% that we did. But once again, they're not ranking schools the way that they have. It isn't even really fair for me to even focus on a state-by-state, a side-by-side comparison, because testing situations in every school were so different. But just it gives you a little bit to look at. And this is the math. Once again, 88% of AMSA students scored meet or exceeds, and 52% in the state. From what I was reading in one of the state articles as they were analyzing their own scores, they talked about that in English, they pretty much had stayed the same. They didn't feel that kids had lost as much English as they had math. And you can see that's not necessarily the case for AMSA. Our students are strong in math. They had a strong foundation going into COVID, and I think that has held them through that difficult time. Obviously now we've got a lot of work to do. Okay, I'm going to buzz through this. I don't want to run out of time, but I want to buzz through the enrollment and nutrition. This used to be a very big hot topic at AMSA. It's not honestly as much as it used to be. I will call your attention. Those are three of my little pumpkins over there, my grandkids. But this is the enrollment when Anders and I came in 2017. We had 984 students. It was even higher than that beforehand. And it's took us a number of years to get this to where we need to be, which is the 966. Linda Edwards has done a fantastic job managing these numbers, and we've watched them very closely. So that's not an issue for us anymore. We're very happy to say. Enrollment by grade. This is our current enrollment by grade. We have worked diligently over all these years to try to level out these grades to in that 140-ish range. And once again, this is a place where Linda has had a lot of success. We've spent a lot of time. You'll notice that the 8th grade is smaller. That was done very purposefully in recent years, because those of you who have experienced AMSA in 8th grade, it's very, some students do it very well, but it is very challenging to come in 8th grade because of the 4 different science classes. The kids are taking 13 to 14 classes. So we've tried to not add students in there, and then we'll add them, we'll refill that class when it hits 9th grade. It's just an easier time to transition into the school we've come to find out over the years. So if you're interested about enrollment and where they are as far as our core towns is concerned, about 51% of our students now are from Marlborough. And this, shifts and changes a little bit every year. Hudson, we have 20%, Clinton 9%, Maynard is 6%, and the other is 14%. And then just to look at this and how this has changed from 2018 to the current year, you'll see the Marlboro numbers have kind of gone up and down, and those of you who have been around for a while are aware about the net cap spending, and sometimes we're told we can't take students from Marlboro because of the cap, and sometimes we can. This year we could. We could not last year, but the year before. So it changes a little bit, but you can see, I think some of this is kind of interesting. Hudson, in particular, I think is definitely a growing community for us, and slower growth in the other towns, but Hudson is definitely someplace where where we've taken a number of students. And you can see that the other towns are decreasing. And that's usually when the last sibling graduates. We're seeing, some of those numbers go down as well. And each year, this is actually the attrition from, okay, so this is 2020, 2021. So this is last year. The next slide is the prior year, just so you kind of have an idea of how many students that we have lost and why. So Linda creates this slide. Those are the classes down all the way from the 2021, the students who just graduated this past year, and you can see where they have gone. Assabet, the class of 2025, this is the year that a number of students will transfer from AMSA and head over to Assabet. There's always a couple folks and families who move, and total that we had transition out was 33 last year. The year before was 27. So just to kind of, and we lost 7 to Assabet the year before. And you may notice it was 5 to MAMS the year before, but last year it was just 3. I know that's a number we take a look at. That's the Massachusetts Academy up at WPI. So that's where we are on those. This is the waitlist report. So currently, at this very moment, we have 432 students still on our waitlist. All the siblings are off the 6th grade waitlist. The only siblings that we have that are still waiting, there's 3 of them on the 7th grade waitlist. And those are our totals down the bottom. So once the waitlist is gone for the siblings, then obviously you go to the core towns. If we lost a 9th grader, and this actually happens quite often, if we lose a 9th grader, we're done with the core town list, we're done with the sibling list, then that's when you go to the non-core town list after that. And just a quick building update for you. Just congratulations to all of you. And thank you for your work in acquiring the 2 new buildings. We couldn't have been happier. Obviously, this has been quite a roller coaster. Very exciting. When I announced it at the all-staff meeting last week, the room just erupted in cheers. So people are very, very happy. And it's very exciting. And once that happened, and even just prior to that, things have been really moving quickly. And Leon and I are constantly working on the building and working with Ksenia from our OPM, and now with Feingold Alexander, the designers, who actually spent about 3 hours yesterday with our department chairs, running them through a process and a visioning exercise. And the chairs, and they were really involved and engaged in the process and excited. And it was a really exciting afternoon. And we're also going to be doing a staff visioning survey, which will be going out to folks soon, asking them about, what they would like to see out of the project. During all of this, we are also doing the best we can to manage expectations, because we do know that our money is limited, and that, it is really kind of tight. The project is not expansive. It does not expand throughout the whole campus. And so, we try to manage expectations and think about what we can do with what we have. But we're very excited about it. Quick razzle dazzle. First of all, this is, every year, for those of you, once again, who've been around for a while, know that we have a partnership with Synovian. This is, I think, the 3rd year that we have students doing a spring internship. The new video just came out. It's 30 seconds, and I thought you might like seeing it. So, oh gosh, I hope you're going to be able to hear it. All right, so I hope, oof, we gotta get that out of there now. Were you able to see that or hear that?
We could see it, we couldn't hear it. Can you just send a link afterwards and we
I
can just
sure will.
watch it on our own? Perfect, thank you.
I sure will. It's a great, oh my, hold on, I'm so sorry. It seems that my gosh, I'm so sorry about that. Okay, here we go. All right, and then we had Spirit Week this year, and it's always so fun. These were, so the student government runs this. This is organized with our new vice principal, Amanda Sensei and Dan Amaral. They work with the kids, come up with the themes of the day, and it's so fun to see what the kids come up with. So Pajama Day on Monday, and Country versus Country Club on Tuesday, and Sports Day on Wednesday. They had kind of a decades retro day today. And tomorrow is Color Wars. So just a few quick photos for you to look at. These are the kids on pajama days. They had a lot of fun with it. They were absolutely adorable. We had at least one Yoda there, you can see. Then this was Cowboys. Look who's up there in the top corner there, Liz. This was our Cowboys and our Country Club kids, and yep. They had a great time with that as well. And this was Sports Day.
Just happy to report that Country Club Day came the day after States. So the golf team did go to States. So I had to get that plug in.
Yeah. Yay, golf team. And we had Sports Day. Of course, I was in my Red Sox and to celebrate. At least we got as far as we did this year. So you can see Miss Tebow down here on the bottom. The kids really had a great time. And I think it was really important for them to just let loose a little bit. It's you know, it is what it is. This was today. This was a Decades Day. You know, I always think this is kind of funny. Like, I always feel like, you know, I used to wear like a jumpsuit like that. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, they had fun. This was awesome. We're really looking forward to Color Wars tomorrow. And we're wondering is the red team going to win? So go seniors. I like to always rep the seniors, whatever the senior class is, and we're excited about Color Wars. They're going to be doing it outside this year in the 4 Kicks fields. Please send us a no rain vibe. We're really hoping that the kids can experience that. We have a virtual family forum coming up on Wednesday, November 3rd at 9 a.m. And we will record that and get that out on Facebook as well. Mr. Finkel's so wonderful helping us with that. For all of you, we'd love to have you come out to our holiday staff party on December 14th. So please put it in your calendar now. PTO is so wonderful with that. And I believe that is going to be held at the Apex Center. So once again, everyone's looking forward to that little bit of a time off. And then just for those of you who might have friends who are interested in applying to AMSA, we're accepting applications from November 23rd through February 4th. You may realize that those dates have shifted. They're a little later. That was a change that Linda Edwards just made. And that really comes around to that a lot. Is that your alarm? Sorry, our car alarms apparently are going off. So there you go. That's real life for you. We found that a lot of people miss the lottery, and they're like, oh, gee, I thought it would be, you know, still going on in January, and it's not. We want to try to accommodate that so people aren't disappointed. We're shifting in a little bit later. The lottery will still be around the same time, either just before February vacation or just after. We'll be having virtual information nights this year for prospective families, December 1st, 8th, January 5th, and 12th. And then once we have our accepted families, we will have them in for a tour and orientation as well. And go Eagles. Any questions or anything from anyone?
Yeah, this has been, Ellen, this is a great job. I just want to say thanks for bringing to light the challenges as well. I think, you know, many times we go through a lot of the rah-rah and how wonderful the school is. I think it's important for us to go through and listen to some of the challenges and how you're addressing them. So just want to say thank you for bringing those up. And, you know, you'll get through it. The school will get through them, as you said, and, you know, you're addressing them. But for us at the board, you know, I know as a parent, I've seen and heard some things, but as a board level, I think it's also good for us to know that, those things are challenging, just like every school, and that you guys are doing a great job to avert them and address them. Thanks.
Thank you, Ben. It has been challenging. We've seen behavior that is without precedent at AMSA, and so all hands on deck, and we all need to continue to rally together to help each other until we're able to kind of get things back to the way it used to be, as far as the expectations being clear, especially to the kids who haven't been in the building before. So thanks, Ben.
Ellen, I want to echo Ben's sentiments as well. I appreciate hearing it from the administration perspective. I think it's really important for all of us. And I feel this urge to also say the behavior problem is definitely new and interesting. And I think it's also a way of, and you guys know this, the kids who are also struggling, right? And some of them, like you said, that maturity level, they haven't been at AMSA, they don't know the expectations. I think also there are probably some kids who are not exhibiting the behavior problems, but are also kind of struggling, right? And so I think the teachers are definitely at burnout. I think the kids are probably at burnout as well, trying to sort of keep up and get back to how they used to feel, right? And the rigor that they used to keep and that sort of thing. So I think it's just important for all sides to sort of see the mutual struggle, right? I mean, I think it's definitely some of the things I hear as a parent, as well as a board member and out and about, it is different. It is definitely different. So kudos to you guys for recognizing and pivoting on the 17th to really address that. I think that will go a long way, hopefully for the faculty and the students as well, who are sort of feeling a stress and pressure I don't think many of them have ever seen before.
I agree. The other piece that's been really challenging is lack of subs nationwide and across the state, and high absenteeism with our adults for a number of reasons. And some is just that sometimes you have to take a mental health break and you have to just stop. So, we're working. Mike is battling that every day and working on that as well. So, when you read things that are happening at other schools, those things are happening at AMSA. It's just that they're happening on a smaller level. And I know the strength of our community, and I know we're gonna figure all this out. But in the meantime, the mental health of our staff is imperative. We go nowhere if they're not feeling up to the challenge every day. So, just encouraging them to continue to please take care of themselves, pace themselves. They don't have to, assign a 6-page essay, right? It can be a 5-paragraph essay. It can be 2 pages, and that's okay. So we're working on it, but thank you, Maura.
How does the parent community kind of, I don't think a lot of parents are probably watching today, or maybe a certain percentage, but as a parent, I like hearing this, and how do we get this out to the rest of the parent community so they can also help? It's our children, it's their kids, so that everyone's in it together, and it's not just you and the teachers, it's also the parents.
Yeah. Oh, Bella, you are so right. I'm sorry, Jill, did you want to jump in?
No, I was just going to ask a question about, getting maybe a few of the older students as buddies or mentors, or a lot of times younger children will relate better to a student closer to their age, so if there must be some groups within AMSA that, the students would actually be helpful to you in this situation.
Yeah, I agree, Jill. We have a new mentoring program, actually, that the kids have just been trained. In fact, Anthony just sent out the referral form. So when there is a squabble, or there's a disagreement or something, someone said something, they can go to mediation, and we have students that are trained now. And they also get assistance from, it's through a grant that we have through a professional organization as well. So so that's one piece. And then, we have other mentoring programs as well. Okay, so we're running ahead, or we're okay, Zach?
This is running over, but we're already ahead of schedule.
Okay, thanks. But that's a great suggestion. I want to jump back for a minute to Bella, because so Anders is actually working on a letter that we're going to send home next week to talk about this. I will say, and I think I said last month, that when we appealed to the parents and told them the vandalism in the bathrooms, it was immediate. It stopped immediately. And so we know that our parents are partnering with us. Honestly, it has, that letter for the families hasn't gone out a week or two ago, because we're all like in our fireman's uniform right now and just, putting out one fire after another. And, I know Mike is on this call, and I know that he and Amanda, the vice principal, and our deans of students, that they're on the edge of, of this work. They really are the front face of it, and are working with families and with students and trying to get things under wraps. So that there is a letter going out saying a lot of what I've just said, that it's been bumpy. It's been bumpy, and we need to continue to have them partner with us so that we can get AMSA back to where it needs to be and where we want to be. Well, thank you.
Yeah, just a quick question on the enrollment figures that you shared. And I should probably know this off the top of my head since we talked about it so much in previous years, but what's our enrollment target, or I guess the cap?
966.
All right.
The
So we're at
charter. I'm not sure why they picked that. Was kind of like, why not,
So if I did my math right, we're at 968. Does that sound right?
There's two little holdovers, but I can explain that offline. But we're 966.
Okay.
Yeah. We had one student that graduated in October, and yeah. Yep. That's where we are.
Other questions for Ellen? Well, first, Ellen, thank you very much for the presentation and for completing the building purchase. And it's such a big piece for our long-term future to own our own building. Will give us our forever home. So thank you for getting that to the finish line. We couldn't have done it without you.
Appreciate that, Roger. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's see. Back to agenda. Parent, Bella, you have the floor for a parent representative report.
I have nothing new to report. I haven't received any communication from any parents. So I guess everything is pretty good.
Thank you, Bella. Zach, faculty report.
Okay, so I have a couple things, most of which we have now already talked about. So I'm kind of going to distill down a bunch of different comments into 3 headings, with the building purchase, teacher burnout, and subbing. Building purchase is just kind of an overwhelming yay. A lot of excitement, a lot of happiness. Ellen was not exaggerating when she says that she announced the purchase of the buildings and the room erupted into applause. It quite literally did erupt into applause. So everyone is super thrilled about that. Everyone is excited to see where we go on this. Regarding teacher burnout and behavior issues, I think Ellen really covered everything I was going to say on this. Teachers are just feeling exhausted. There's so much going on, and there's so many different things that are coming up, things that many of them who've been working at AMSA for many years have told me they never would have thought to see here. It's just draining and very, very exhausting. Beyond that, I think that's really the gist. Everything we've discussed with Ellen, I would pair it. There's a couple things that I've talked with her about in terms of day-to-day operations, some recommendations on working some duties around, because we've been having some issues with students moving around the school before the bells that we could deal with, but all of those were really day-to-day operation things. And then regarding the substitute shortage, that is definitely something that's been weighing on teachers, especially recently. I think I have a comment here that I saved. There it is. that really sums up what a lot of people have been saying. It reads, I'm really starting to get concerned over the substitution shortage at AMSA. I'm aware that the administration is trying their best, and I can see that the front desk ladies, especially Margie, are working overtime, and for that I'm eternally grateful. But I would like to see more transparency when it comes to what exactly the solution, or just possible ones, are out there to help with the situation. At this point, I have been subbing pretty much every day, and the only solution I have seen affects the paid time off of other teachers, which in my mind should not be a solution at all. There's an even mix, and like in most people's minds, there's a mix of appreciation for all the work that's going into this, exhaustion from the situation, and frustration at how it's affecting us and things like that. Some teachers are feeling obligated to sub for teachers that are out there, that are out and losing some of their preps for that and are becoming frustrated. Some teachers are just feeling drained. It's overall a very thorny situation, I think, on all sides. And even for the ones that are getting frustrated, I think understand that it is a thorny situation that doesn't have a clear or easy answer. That's really the three things I had kind of distilled down. I'd be happy to give more information on any of them if you had any questions.
Questions for Zach?
More of a comment than a question. I think this goes without saying, but I also learned over the years with the AMSA community that it's worth saying things that go without saying. If there's anything that we as a board or resources that we can put forward to help the teachers, the staff deal with the challenges, and if anybody has any ideas, please do share and do ask. Obviously, our resources are also limited, but I think we're all together in this, and just to making it explicit that if there's anything that we can do to help, please let us know.
As I mentioned in our pre-meeting, if there's any parents out there that are listening far and wide, and you would like to come in and apply to be a sub, or you have friends who are interested in applying to be a sub, just please let us know. They can reach out to, it's on School Spring, so you can jump right on there and fill out an application, or email me or anyone at the school. We will point you in the right direction.
Other questions for Zach? Right. Thank you. We are on to chair business. So quick update on the executive director goals. We are almost there. We've got one more goal to polish up. We expect to be reporting out on the executive director goals in the next meeting. So that's it for executive director roles. The only other piece I had was a quick survey task force update. Turn the time to Zach, Raul, or
yeah,
Zach,
I'll be
Raul.
happy to provide that update. And of course, everybody from the task force welcome to chime in as well. So you may remember from our previous board meeting that we were discussing the idea of whether or not we wanted to keep doing 2 surveys a year. So for those that are not familiar, we do a pulse survey in the fall, and then I'm going to call it the big survey in the spring. And when I say survey, I actually mean surveys, because it's the family survey and the staff survey. And we've seen over the years how there's been a reduction on participation and the response rates for both surveys. And we were trying to figure out if it made sense to continue to do it that way, or what kinds of things we could do to drive up participation. And one thing so we were questioning, should we go down to only 1 survey a year? That was kind of what was on the table. So the task force met, and I'm just going to share our conclusion and a suggestion. And of course, the rest of the board can differ if you want, and we can reconsider. But the suggestion is to reduce the surveys to just doing 1 survey in the spring timeframe. To have, and again, we're talking about the board-run surveys. That doesn't exclude any of the other things that I know the administration has been doing and for specific purposes, right? So the administration runs their own surveys. We're talking specifically about the board-run surveys. So we thought it made sense to go down to just the 1, and actually try to make that shorter and more focused on topics that are relevant for the families and the staff to increase participation, to make it easier to take. And we felt that if we felt there was a specific topic that required us to take a pulse of what was going on with the community, with the staff and the families, we could always go back and create. It's not that hard. So one of the questions was, how difficult is it to just create a new survey and send it out? And just because of the platforms we're using and the way we can run these surveys, it's not that hard. So if we change our mind, if you wanted to do something in the middle of the year, we could. So it's just trying to keep that flexibility in there. What would we lose by having a shorter, more focused survey would be something that we've talked about a lot in the survey task force, is the ability to do trending year over year. If we ask the same questions, we can see trends in those questions and do benchmarking. That's part of what we get from Panorama, which is the vendor that we use for running that survey, is that they allow us to compare our results to their pool of other schools. We think over the time, neither of those things are critical. You know, it's not critical for us to do trending beyond certain things that are part of our mission, which we'll continue to do trending. So focusing on a smaller set of questions that are more relevant year over year, the specific year, would make more sense and would drive up participation and give us an opportunity to understand what's going on. We did, as far as timing for the one survey, so if we skip the fall survey, as we're suggesting, the timing for the one survey, the spring survey we discussed that a little bit, even though we have time to decide that, would be kind of late March timeframe for the spring survey. And again, part of the discussion has always been the fall survey is good, so we have a checkpoint to change things at the beginning of the school year. Things need to be changed, but it's also tough because parents and staff haven't really gone through the school year to have an opinion about some of the questions we asked. And actually, we've seen that in some of the comments, especially for new parents, when they say, hey, I just joined the school. I don't really have an opinion formed on a lot of these things. So doing it later in the year helps with that, but also not doing it all the way at the end of the school year where we can't really affect any change from what we learned from the survey. So what we're suggesting is, again, skipping the fall survey, and the task force will reconvene in late January to work on the timeline and the questions for the spring survey. Did I miss anything, Ellen? I think, Ellen, you're the only one that's on this call that wasn't on that meeting because Don's not on today.
I think just that you didn't miss anything, Raul, thank you. We really would like to, instead of repeating the same questions, especially the ones that, we've got pretty consistent and positive scores with, is to start digging into some of the other things a little bit more deeply, which I don't know if we can get that specific with the questions that are created by Panorama necessarily, but we can add our own in there. And then the timeline, we're also thinking doing it more like in March, give us a little bit more time to process it afterwards, and we're not hitting summer so quickly.
So that's a recommendation from the task force. So if anybody has any different opinions or just want to comment on that, please do so.
Feedback from the board. I have one comment. I think it would be, there are some questions I think it would be useful to still trend over time. So I think I'd be very interested to see, particularly around morale or academic dishonesty is two areas that I think might be useful to trend over. Keep some core of the trending, but really, like you said, maybe a hybrid approach where we have a few core questions, things about our mission, things about our core values that we always keep in the survey, but then vary the rest of it based on the needs of the current school year. So maybe a hybrid. I'll just throw that out as an idea. But I think it makes perfect sense to not do the fall survey. I don't believe there was any policy or anything that this is just a practice that we had. There's no board policy or any vote that's required to choose to go down to one survey. Jill or anybody have anything to the contrary on that?
No, I don't think there is. I think you can do it, yeah.
I mean, the main intention is to be able to have, and that's another thing that we discussed a little bit. There are many channels for the community to reach the board. You know, public comment being one of them, just reaching out over email, or there are many ways, and both families and staff can reach out to the board if they're not comfortable reaching out to administration. The survey was yet another channel for that. So we wanted to make sure that channel existed. So we're not getting rid of the survey completely, but we didn't think that reducing it to one survey was getting in the way of that timely feedback, because there's many other ways that the issues can be brought up to the board.
Very good.
Issues or praise.
Yeah. Okay. I think any other questions for the survey task force? Thank you for that recommendation. Hearing no objections, I think we will go with that plan and look forward to the report in the January timeframe with the questions and rollout plan. That ends chair business. I'm going to rearrange the schedule slightly and move the finance committee report to the bottom, because Kristen said that she would be able to join us during the meeting. So I'm going to move next to the development committee report. Ben, you have the floor.
Okay. All right. So we had a little bit of a readjustment. We had one planned development committee meeting. We ran into open meeting laws in terms of getting a schedule in time. So we had to move it, which shortened it a little bit. But in that meeting, we basically focused on the updates and got a feedback from the outside consultant. So many of you know we engaged with an outside consultant to help us with building the capital campaign team. And that was, a big step for us to say, all right, how do we do it? What's the best structure? Ellen's been working very well with Betsy. So Betsy gave us an idea of just where things stood. So just so everyone else knows, a committee's forming. There's quite a few people raise their hand to be part of it. I think the committee's getting a good cross section of different folks that are in our community that are part of our our family here at AMSA. So I think it's going to move forward, and I think the next steps are really getting together for them and building out the communication plans for reaching out to our community. So what is the capital campaign? It's actually an effort to help fund a lot of the changes that are happening now that we've acquired the buildings. So for those folks that are out there and looking to become part of the building out of these buildings and the improvements that we've listed as part of our capital plan moving forward, I think this is a great opportunity to volunteer and help. And there's a lot of different ways you can do that. You can engage the committee with helping reach out. You can obviously donate. You can actually give some of your time and effort or your skills, your contacts, things like that. Really, it's going to be a great effort. And, Betsy and Ellen are doing a great job pulling that committee together. So I don't know if Ellen, you wanted to comment a little more on just of your meetings that you've had and maybe give the rest of any new updates I don't know about.
Yeah, no, we do. We've got a great committee that's forming, and we're still recruiting. We've got a couple spots at least open, looking for one of our alumni, maybe one of the students maybe who's graduated from college and is into the workforce and might be interested in coming back and helping us. We would also love to have someone from Maynard. That's one of our core towns we don't have a representative from. But if you're someone or somebody out there on Facebook Live who loves the idea of fundraising and having a really great organization to represent, we would love to talk to you. So that's where we are with that.
All right,
if there's one of these people out there from Maynard, perchance, who should they contact?
They could contact me or they could contact Ben. Don Capello I know there's an AMSA Parent Maynard page, and Don put it out on that Facebook page to perhaps draw one of the parents in. We haven't, found the person yet, but we will. So yes, and they can, once again, they can contact anyone and we'll get them to the right place.
Thank you, Ellen.
So that's the update for this month, Roger.
Thanks, Ben. Questions for Ben? No questions? Thank you, Ben. Next up is Education Committee. Liz.
We actually had some logistical issues this month, so we did not have the Ed Committee meeting, but we are meeting next Thursday, so we'll have an update for November.
All right. Thank you, Liz. Governance Committee. Sheila.
Hi, so we met this month. Like I said, we were talking about meeting efficiency, and Somini's working tirelessly on a format for us to track our strategic goals and making sure they tie into our vision, and that is in the works. So that's really been the primary focus. And Raul has been working on the job description for prospective trustees. So that's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, so the last board meeting, we brought up the Board of Trustees job description. So when I was reading the minutes, I realized that I took an action item to send it to everybody and put it on the board packet. I only did one of those two things. So it wasn't the board packet. So I hope everybody had a chance to read it before this discussion. But do you want me to spend a couple minutes just going over it? And
I think that'd be great.
All right, so I'm going to put it on the screen while I say how this came to be. Because we used Board on Track. There's a lot of resources there for sample. Can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
Okay. So we took a lot of sample language from that, but we wanted to make sure to capture the AMSA way, for lack of a better term. And we came up with 9 specific things that we're listing out. So the first paragraph is just basically saying, as Board of Trustees, our general responsibilities is to make sure that we're faithful to the charter, and we have a governance capacity and a fiduciary responsibility to make sure that that takes place. And we also wanted to make sure that we were positive in the language, but at the same time, create boundaries to what is it the board does and what the board doesn't do. So we wanted to be explicit that we want to ensure the values are embodied in everything the school does, but we do that through policy and oversight. So we're not actively getting involved in operational aspects of the school, but we're defining what those aspects should be and how they should operate. You know, what are the rules and the policies that govern that. So that's the first paragraph. And then the 9 things, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail again. I hope and expect that everybody had a chance to read this at some point, but staying faithful to the mission is an important one. Being we only have one person in the staff that works for the board, and that is the executive director. So it is our job as board members to select, direct, and support the executive director. And there's some specific ways in which we do that. And I think we've seen in recent meetings how we are, we include a lot of these things in what we do. Strategic planning is another one of those, and again has been a recent topic that we talked a lot about in governance and overall as a board.
Hey, Raul, under 2A, I think that it maybe just after timely in parentheses, if you want to put both formally and informally. I just don't want to lose sight of the fact that we do have a formal process that we follow, and make sure that that is adhered to.
Yeah, that's a good edit. Yeah, and by the way, and appreciate that coming from the HR person in the room, that performance reviews and goal reviews and feedback is something that should not happen once a year, right? It's something that should be continuous and constructive. The fourth being resource management. So when we say we provide resources, it's mostly, again, informing fundraising and approving the budget. That has to do also with part of what we have to do based on the charter, and supporting, with our work, talent, time, and treasure, how the school fundraises and gets resources to do what the school needs to do. Programs and services, this is more to do with how we help make sure that we continue to be an excellent school and that we don't let academic excellence fall to the wayside. So that's critical to our values and to what the board should be governing. The public standing is our way of saying that we need to be ambassadors for the school. So we should be sharing our love for the school and our passion for our values inside and outside the school with our community. Integrity is another one of our core values, so we wanted to make sure that was also captured here as well. And the 8th one has more to do with succession planning, or I guess making sure that we have an ongoing pipeline of people to be part of the board. So we want to make sure that the board represents the community, and that we hold ourselves to the same standards that we're holding our students and our community, that we want to make sure we're ready to do the job that we need to do for the school. And the last one is the most practical one, because when people, if you think about this as a job description, when somebody's trying to apply for a job, part of the question is, well, what do you expect from me other than understanding the job that I'm doing? And so we try to be practical about what is the time commitment for a board member. So we spell this out in about 8 hours a month, which includes a board meeting. You know, we hope that we can get this shorter with all of the efficiency things that we're trying to do. But, you know, a 3-hour board meeting, a 2-hour committee meeting a month, and then some other time to get ready for those things. So we try to be explicit with that ask, where if anybody's interested, they'll be able to see this is what it means to be a board member. So that was a quick overview just to make sure that we kind of discussed it. Again, we discussed this more in governance, and everybody had a chance to see that as part of the packet. But any reactions or comments or edits? So I don't know formally, Sheila or Roger, do we vote on this being finalized, or does this become, because it's not really a policy, it's more of a just a document.
All right, I don't believe this is not something that you would vote on. I think it just becomes part of our materials that we would use to recruit new board members. So we would just, no vote required. And it looks great, by the way. I think this really captures what we need and answers the questions of a prospective board member.
That's intention. All right, so I'll make that edit list, and if anybody has any ideas, please feel free to reach out to me or anybody on the governance committee.
And is there a place where we can publish this or make it accessible to the board members?
It is, so right now it's shared in Google Drive. I guess after we publish it, it should go in the website where we have all the board documentation. So I guess I'll leave that to Sarah and Mr. Finkel.
That would be great. And and the other piece of it is this is a live document. This is a great update. I mean, we've had one a previous version of many years ago, but you know, as we can refine and enhance it as needed. If we find something in the future, we can just tweak it and just give the governance committee the ability to do that as needed. But this is a great milestone, and we'll step toward recruiting new board members. All right, any questions for the governance committee? Oh, thank you. All right, finance. I believe that Liana, that you're going to present the September numbers. I mean, most of finance was dedicated to the voting section, and we've already completed. And we had 2 meetings during the month to discuss that, and the remaining item to discuss in finance is the September numbers. So with that, I'd like to pass the baton to Liana to give us an overview of September.
Yeah, Kristen texted me a little while ago. She's still running way behind. So I'm sort of filling in for her. So we went over the numbers in the last finance meeting for up through the end of September. And so revenue, this is actual 4,402,000 versus what was budgeted 4,152,000. So we've got a surplus of revenue over what we had budgeted of 250,000 for the 3 months into the school year. The major drivers of that increase is tuition. It's coming in more than what we had budgeted by 62,000. Summer school grants that we received to help with our summer school program, and you'll see offsetting expenses down below. And the last big driver is the student transportation. We had to move our regional buses this year from 2 regional buses, which we normally do or normally provide, to 3 regional buses. So you're seeing an increase there. So that's revenue. And then if we move down to our expenses, our total expense for the 3 months, 3,857,000 versus what we had budgeted, 3,949,000, is a reduction of expenses, actual versus what we had budgeted by 92,000. And the key drivers here, facilities seems to be coming in less than what we had planned on. And I think that's because they did so much work in the previous school year. And the other PD is consistently under budget, so that's 35,000 there. And yeah, that's about it driving that number. So overall, the surplus for the 3 months is 544,000 versus what we had planned on 202,000 for a surplus of 342,000 for the 3 months ending September 30th, 2021.
Okay. Questions for Liana or Finance Committee? No questions. Thank you very much. We are set with finance. Is there any items? Okay, we did not flag anything. Any items that the board would like to bring forth for discussion? Hearing none. Meeting wrap up. Let's see. Reviewing items from the previous board meeting. I don't believe we have any, so we can move on from there. Meeting wrap up. So Sarah, could you review action items from the current meeting?
I just have 2, if they're even action items, really. Raul had said that he was going to work with me about making sure that the consent agenda goes out for the next meeting, making sure that everything is submitted. And the other is for Mike Finkel and myself to get the job description published on the website.
All right. All right. Anything else that we missed? And for the November board meeting, I skipped over 7B here. So Sheila, you'll be ready with the OML presentation for November?
Yes, I will.
Great. And from our board topic calendar, we have myself to begin preparations for the strategic planning meeting. Ellen has the AP and SAT state rankings if they're available. We're striking the fall pulse survey, so we're not doing that. And Ellen, I'll talk with you offline. But in the past, like 2 years ago, we were doing department chair highlights in the board meetings. I'll talk with you offline to see whether we want to continue that or not. So those were the items that I have. Anything else for any special items for November? None. Okay. We have our summary of action items. Feedback on meeting effectiveness. Comments or questions regarding effectiveness of this meeting?
No, just a clarification. If we're gonna pilot the consent agenda for next board meeting, then the deadline will be Thursday, the 11th, to have the committee reports submitted. Which, well, might be a holiday for some of you, but that might be a good thing.
And just to clarify, are we just putting the meeting minutes into Board on Track and they'll be pulled from there, or is there something that we should actually submit?
Well, I think the committee report could include the context of the minutes, but it may also be something else. You may provide the minutes and then you could provide a summary. So instead of verbally describing the results of the education committee, you would just write it up as a report that the board would read. And then I could imagine that then I'm just using the education because you asked the question, that the education committee report would just be a Q&A on your report, and you wouldn't give a physical report during your slot. And again, This is a pilot. We're figuring out this out as we go. So I think that my gut feel is it's more than just the minutes, but you could use the minutes to write your report.
Okay.
Or you could just say see minutes. That is a very valid option.
Okay.
Does that help?
Not really, but I'll figure it out. I'm okay.
All right. Yeah. This whole thing is a pilot, so we don't have its purpose of it. Other questions or comments on meeting effectiveness? Zach, how did we do on time?
We are currently running about 1.5 hours ahead of schedule.
Wow. Awesome. And we've gotten through everything. So no other feedback. We've had our summary of action items. We've collected our agenda, and we've just discussed the meeting. So at this point, I'll accept them. Look for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
Sarah, would you call the roll, please?
So that was Liz and Ben. Was that you, Ben?
Correct. Yes.
Okay. All right. Bella Gorman,
Yes.
Ben Howell,
Yes.
Jill Schaefer,
Yes.
Liz Saul,
Yes.
Mara Webster,
Yes.
Nick Poirier,
Yes.
Raul Porras,
Yes.
Roger Jarrett,
Yes.
Sheila Kelly,
Yes.
Zachary Oglesby.
Yes.
That's everyone.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Meeting adjourned.